You're listening to the Late Night Football Show with your host, Rohit Singh. That's me. On this show, we talk about some of the most seriously silly topics from the world of football for your entertainment and enjoyment. Please remember that the show is BYOL. Bring your own laughs, since we don't have the budget for a studio audience. Happy listening. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Late Night Football. This is our match reaction episode for the United Palace game, and we're all very quiet because we all watched the match, and we're smiling right now. But on the inside, you can probably feel the anger and the tears. I think that's sad, but we'll talk. There's a lot to talk about. There's a lot to cover, so we'll get into it. I would like to welcome my guests today. They're coming back on this show. Welcome back, Akash. Nice to have you again.
Hey,
Yes, and
thank
also
you.
welcome. Yeah, and also welcome back to Sahil, also coming back on the show.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, and this is interesting because Akash, I had you for the transfer reaction video for Donny van de Beek, and we talked at that time
Yeah,
about that was the first signing that United had made, and we talked about things that to keep that momentum going, to get new signings coming in. That clearly hasn't happened. We're still waiting on our second transfer reaction video to do. That hasn't happened, and we'll talk about that. And Sahil, we did the European competitions review, if you remember back, with the Champions League, the Europa League. We talked about that, and we talked about where United have fallen short against Sevilla, and again, the team. There hasn't been a lot of changes to that team that started that game versus this game. That I mean, again, we talked about all of these things that need to change, that need to happen, and none of that happened. And so if we came to this point in the Palace game, let me start with you, Sahil. What was your impression of the game as a whole? What did you think went wrong?
So I think we got from the game what we deserved, nothing more, nothing less. There were
Hmm.
like literally no quality chances except for that one Lindelof one and the Van de Beek one, which is also like scrapey, but it was fine.
Hmm.
Apart from that, the players were completely off pace, which I think is a little understandable because this preseason was very short. Ole said that players like AWB and Matic they couldn't play because they didn't complete enough training sessions, so there was no way for them to start today. But even even then, they just like look very demotivated. It felt like the things that are happening off the pitch might have taken an effect on the match preparations because we had like two or three failed transfers this week, right? Like some place transfers we were linked to, but we didn't get them. Like
Hmm.
Thiago was there, Reguilon was there. Bale, I don't know if we were in for him, but like to an extent, but like at least a couple of them, we were definitely in for them, and we
Yeah.
didn't get them. So it's just like maybe the incompetence of the pitch kind of like disappointed the players, and there wasn't real spark to it. It didn't feel like a like after finishing third, we should have started the season with a swing in our steps, but then I was just like so disappointed. It felt like we were like right in the middle of a horrible run of form when we actually ended the season reasonably well. So just disappointing in general.
Yeah. No, for sure. Um, that's it's hard to talk without wanting to rant, and I'm trying so hard to control myself. Like I don't want to rant because I don't want to overwhelm or overtake this conversation. But Akash, let's talk about let's talk about the tactics, right? I mean, what did you think of the team that was put out? Do you think that was the right team that was put out? I mean, leaving aside the fact that there's been no transfers, whatever. Did you think that 11 was the best 11 that could have taken the field?
no, I don't think so. That was the best 11. I mean, you can say we didn't have like a comfortable preseason, only one game against Villa, and that too we lost the game. So I don't know what's about Matic and Aaron Wan-Bissaka, why they were not in the side. I mean, it could be that they were in the quarantine and couldn't feature this week. But again, I mean, if you are talking in a considering the bigger picture, I think this should have been a starting 11 with Aaron Wan-Bissaka and Matic and with Pogba and Bruno ahead of them. So it's basically the same squad as we ended the last season. And I mean, it is understandable why Van de Beek didn't start. It was his first game, and usually it takes time for players to settle in. But I think he did well. I remember in the last podcast I said when we signed him, I mean, he is a player which goes through behind the defender lines and he's just try to get one, like a proper side finish or something. So he did well.
Hmm.
But apart from that, I am impressed with McTominay. I think he was decent. And by decent, I don't mean he was like an 8 out of 10 player or something. He just
Yeah.
was 6 out of 10. And
Hmm.
considering the other players, they had a horrible performance in my opinion.
Yeah, and talking about McTominay, because this was something that I want to talk about. I want to talk about a few individual players. Let's start with McTominay since you brought that up. I've seen a few channels. I mean, I was watching that. After the game, that's what normally I do. Is I try to look at the fan reaction, match reaction. Everybody's slating McTominay. Like, I mean, there are people who are saying that he was abysmal, and I cannot understand it. Like, I thought he was pretty good. I mean, he was an excellent
Yeah,
world class. I'm not gonna say that he's the second coming of Roy Keane or whatever. But out of those three that started, and I'll excuse Johnny Van Der Beek because he scored a goal, so technically that probably means that he had a better game. But of the three that started, I thought McTominay was the best of the three. And yet everybody's like, and I feel,
yeah,
and everybody's like, oh no, Pogba and Bruno probably were better, and McTominay was at fault. I thought he was. I mean, he had a bad first half, but the second half he was pretty good. Like he was making tackles, he was putting passes together. I mean, not big passes, but he was all right. What do you think, Sahil? Do you think that's fair to say that McTominay was the best of the three?
Yeah,
Or
I think it is fair to say because Pogba and Bruno weren't in the game at all. Like at any point of time, even in a stretch of time, like they weren't doing what they were doing like a couple of months ago. But I think it's a little harsh on McTominay if we say that he was abysmal because we all know his limitations as a player. Like he's not as good a passer as Matic. So if we expect a player like McTominay to play the role Matic plays, which is basically helping the team build up, because Matic normally sits with Lindelof and Maguire, and that's how we build up because Matic has a left foot and Maguire has a right foot. So that's how our passes come through because both have different angles. And if we expect McTominay to play the same role, I think it's a little unfair because we know that he isn't capable, at least right now, maybe in the future. So if anything, like it's not his fault that he didn't have a great first half, but then the second half, I think he was more energetic. He won a few tackles. He did the short passing that he does normally well. Like it wasn't very progressive, but it was still decent. Like at least enough to keep the ball ticking around. So
yeah.
if I think there were a lot there were other players to be blamed apart from McTominay or before McTominay as such.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean it was just surprising. But speaking of midfield, anybody who's seen me on any forum knows that I don't rate Pogba very highly. I mean, a lot of people say Paul Pogba is world class. I don't think he's world class. I think he's a decent player. He's a good player. I'm not saying that he's like a a really bad player. I think he's a good player. I think he's overrated a little bit. That's just my opinion of watching him for 4 years for Manchester United. I do not know. But I thought this was probably his worst game that I've seen him play for Manchester United. I may be wrong, but I thought it was the worst game. That it looked like nothing was coming off for him. I thought Bruno was bad. He was pretty poor, but at least he was putting some effort in. Trying to track back. Guy Neville called him the best defender on the pitch for whatever reason. I don't know if you guys saw that, but uh, Paul Pogba just looked like he. It looked like if you were talking about players not being interested, it looked like he wanted to be anywhere except on that field. He literally was not in the game. What did you guys think of Paul Pogba's performance?
I don't think he was good today. He was probably the worst of the lot. But that is, of course, it is with his expectations also, we expect a lot from him. But again, you have to understand that he's playing in a deeper role with Solskjaer. So for me, I don't think that's his best position. He shouldn't be in that position to collect the ball from the center backs and what he tries to do is just to get some fancy feet and get the ball moving forward with the help of his strength. So sometimes there are players which press him and he loses the ball in dangerous positions and which ends up conceding a chance for the opposition, which was the case today. So, and not only the passing. I mean, I was shocked with the passing of football with United's midfield today. I mean,
Hmm.
Bruno is okay. I mean, you pass the ball, he tracks back, and he was having like a sliding tackle or something to retrieve the ball back. Pogba was nowhere to be seen. I mean, I know he has been scapegoat for so many games, but this was probably his worst game, or maybe one of the worst games in the shirt.
Yeah. No, mentioned about that. I don't want to make this a Pogba show, but what do you think is Pogba's best position? Because to me, that where he's playing right now, to me, that is his best position. That at United, at least, I don't think he can play any other position. Like we've tried him everywhere else. I think this is probably the last chance for him to really. I think that is the best position. But what position do you think is best for him?
See, if we are so the formation we are playing right now is 4-2-3-1.
Yeah.
So what I think is if we play a 4-3-3 with a DM, so it gives the Pogba and Bruno Fernandes a freedom role. I mean, which we again saw at the end of the last season. He was falling back, but he had Matic with him for the support. So it was not his sole responsibility to track back and like have a cover in front of the defense. So I don't think he should be there in that position. And he also has a tendency to lose the ball when he's getting pressured by the defenders. I know he's a bit trickery and he has quick feet and skills or something, but you don't always like get the amount of luck you always need. So you have to be in that position where you have to like look forward where your attackers are making the runs. And again, I mean, attackers were like shambles today. So
Yeah.
I mean, I won't give him the sole blame, but yeah, I mean, the whole team was bad, and he was the center of it.
Yeah, no, yeah, he's definitely not the only one to blame for sure.
Yeah.
There's no way you can say that one player was to blame for this game. This was a team performance, but in the negative sense. Okay, well, we'll leave the Pogba debate aside for a second.
Just one thing. I
Yeah,
think it's also there that Pogba just came back from the virus, so he probably hasn't trained enough because he didn't recover. Like he recovered, I don't know when, but like not long ago. So
Yeah.
maybe if he's just been in training like for a week, but that's not ideal if you're gonna start a game against a team that is already a game under their back, right? So
Mhm.
that might have been a factor, probably for all of them, but like also mainly for Pogba because I don't know if the virus took a toll on him, but might be a factor.
Yeah, definitely.
No,
Yeah,
but
that's
if he has trained, if he has trained less than the other players, then why weren't Matic and Van Bissaka in the starting 11? I mean,
Yeah, that's also
that
fair.
probably shows its favoritism to Pogba. I mean,
yeah.
because of the star status.
Yeah, I think he was fit enough to start. I don't know if he was fit enough to play the full game. I think that I mean, he might even have been physically fit, but mentally, sometimes you have that sort of issue, right? That's quite possible. It's not an excuse, but it is possible that happened. Uh, there's so many things to discuss. Let's mark. Okay, let's talk about the forwards. Leaving aside everything else, and we'll talk about personnel. That is, I mean, I do not want to see Daniel James playing as a right winger ever again. If I could never
Yeah.
see him again, that would not come soon enough. He is not a right winger. I mean, this is quite obvious. He's not a right winger, is he? I mean,
No, I mean he was a left winger. I mean he plays left wing for his international team.
yeah.
So I have seen the international games, and he was really playing well with them. Like he likes to cut inside and drifts wide. So see, his main strength is not crossing the ball. He gets inside the box and try to find a player or maybe the far post. So his finishing also it's not up to the mark. But I won't blame him. He's just a utility player and a squad player. So like putting too much pressure on that guy is not really good. I mean, we know we shouldn't expect a lot from him because he was just brought in as a cover because our original target was Jadon Sancho, and it's still Jadon Sancho. I don't think we will be able to get him. I mean, I don't know what if this fixture changes anything, but yeah, we'll see about that.
We'll talk about Jadon Sancho, the right winger. But Sahil, here's a question for you. On current form, would you drop Marcus Rashford and play Daniel James as a left winger?
No, because even if Rashford is not in good form, I don't think Daniel James is in any better form, right?
He has been in good form on the left wing for Wales and in the preseason that he played
Yeah,
against Villa. He played very well. I've
I
not
mean,
watched
that's fair,
the game.
but I don't know if we can base it off on just like one preseason friendly we played because it's not like it was a stretch of 6 or 7 games. It was one friendly, and I didn't watch the Wales game, but then I think Rashford has shown that he has enough quality. He's I think Rashford is kind of like a confidence player. You need to like play him for some games before he gets back on track because he was not in form for a while at the start of last season, but then he grew into it and then he was carrying our team till Martial and came back and Bruno was signed. So I don't want to say I want to drop Rashford right now. I would probably give him some games before you drop him because he's also coming back from a long injury. So and again, the preseason isn't ideal, so maybe like give him some more minutes to grow into it, and then
Okay. Akash, do you agree?
uh, to some extent. I mean, I don't mind having a go with James as a left winger. I mean, we have seen what he did last season early on when he scored like 3 or 4 goals. It all came from the left side.
One.
So
yeah.
yeah, and I would also like to see if we can change the formation, like go with the wing backs and probably three at the back because we clearly don't have quality wingers. I mean, Rashford, you can say he's not a winger; he's an inside forward. He gets inside, he doesn't cross the ball. So
Yeah.
I mean, if he has to play narrow, why does not like create a solid midfield with Van de Beek, Pogba, and Bruno, and just try to settle in somewhere?
But I thought Rashford did like I think in the Crystal Palace game last season, Rashford showed that he can also play like create plays while playing a little bit wider because I think he has this kind of this ball he plays while he's on the left hand side, but then very close to the touchline, and he just like lifts the ball forward for someone to run into. So he has those attributes to him, but probably not shown it on a regular basis. But there are some glimpses that he can maybe also create while hugging the touchline.
Okay. Just because you brought that up, this is my question for you then. If we play a back three and play wing backs, right? I think that is a decent option, but you have to drop a midfielder to bring in a defender. That on right now, which midfielder would you drop? Because you can play a three. Yeah, basically, if you play a 3-5-2, for example, you would have to assuming that one of the fullbacks becomes defender, who would you
Yeah.
drop of the midfield three? Because you can have Bruno, Pogba, and McTominay. I guess one of them would have to drop out, right? If I'm getting my
Yeah.
math correct, is that how it would work? Or you drop one of Greenwood, Martial, or Rashford. Either you make space for a forward, or you drop a midfielder. So who would you drop? I guess one of those. The obvious answer is obviously probably Daniel James at this point. Though I think he could be a good left wing back. But yeah, but who would you drop? If let's assume Greenwood is the winger, then would you drop Greenwood or would you drop a midfielder?
I think I will drop Greenwood. I mean, he has the potential, but we need options from the bench as well. Like if you have to change the tactics in mid game, so he's a game changer because him and Van de Beek were probably like we when you see on the bench, we don't have really impact subs. You can say we have Pereira, Lingard, but they are just not quality and good. I mean, I won't even count them as a quality.
No.
So even if you're playing as a back five or back three, what we say, so we can have like. I mean, I don't think we need a proper DM with this formation. We can probably have like McTominay, Pogba, and Fernandes, or maybe Van de Beek in place of Pogba. So with two forwards, like Martial and Rashford.
The final question on both. Two questions now, two players to talk about on personnel. Let's start with the positive one first. Timothy Foster-Mensah, someone who I saw 4 years ago. I think 4 years ago I saw him, against Spurs in that game. And he was played as right back. It was amazing. I thought he had a really good player. We had a gem of a player. Kind of fell off the radar a little bit. Has come back. What do you make of his performance today, Sahil?
I think
Five star.
the first half wasn't that great. Second half, I think he actually put in a couple of crosses, which Greenwood I think should have at least tested the keeper. I think it was Fosu Mensah who put in the cross. That was a good one. But again, I think it's the first game where he showed that he can create, but then he's not a modern fullback. I think unless he was holding this crossing ability of his towards the end of last season, but. I don't think Fosu again like I said in the preview podcast that I don't think Fosu Mensah should be a backup right back. There should be someone else in place of him. I
Yeah.
mean he did well, but then I'm not sure if it's sustainable or if it's a show if it's like a sign that he has it in him to produce it consistently. But today in the second half, I think he was one of our main creators because
Mhm.
I think he put in like two or three decent balls in. So
Would you say he was the best of the back four? I mean, it's not a high bar. They didn't set a high bar. Would you say? I thought he was the best player of that back four.
yeah, definitely,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
it's not a high bar to talk about, but I thought he was. Yeah, probably.
Yeah, I know he
Maybe
was
it's
the
because
best
we
of the
didn't.
back four, no
Yeah,
question. But
and maybe it's because we didn't expect a lot. But I think but
yeah,
from him, so maybe we exceeded that. But Akash, is he better? Is he better offensively than Van Bissaka, or do you think offensively you
Uh,
would trust Van Bissaka more than Timothy?
See, I don't think neither of them are good offensively. I think Fosu Mensah is in the side probably because of his pace. He's, I think, slightly quicker than Van Bissaka going forward, and he understands the game better in that position. I mean, in an offensive position, I mean. Defensively, there is no doubt. I mean, one-on-one, and Van Bissaka like probably bosses the game. So I think, I mean, it's not a major thing to be concerned about. I know Van Bissaka has its limitations, but I think his strength of the game is at the back, and he should stick to it. We shouldn't expect what Trent does for Liverpool, like to get 15 assists or something. So I don't think so. That's a major concern. What we should do is get a proper right winger, and probably we will look good as a side going forward.
Yeah. The final one to talk about. We spoke about this before. Throughout the season, the transfer window, there were two priorities for United. We talked about the right wing and we talked about a centre half, left side of centre half. And I think today we saw why we needed a centre half because okay, leave aside. I don't think I've seen a worse centre half performance. I'm not even talking about Victor Lindelof. I have not seen a worse centre half performance from a United centre half. I don't remember the last time that maybe when Johnny Evans was playing, maybe it was the time when I've seen a worse centre half performance, a worse performance in centre half. Or maybe when Eric Bailly was taken off like for 14, 15 minutes against Newcastle, maybe. Although I don't think that was his fault, but three goals, all three were his fault. And this is following on from the Sevilla game where he was also at fault for the winner. So Akash, I mean, what do you do about him? Like, was it just a bad day at the office? Is it there are people saying that him and Maguire don't work as a partnership? I think that might be true that they don't work as a partnership.
Yeah.
But at this point, like you just gotta have to drop someone, right? One of them, both of them can. You just can't justify his place. He can't justify his place in the team anymore, can he?
it has to be Lindelof. I mean, I have been saying this. He is a decent defender. He's nothing more. I mean, you cannot like you if you want to challenge for the title, you cannot challenge with this partnership. Is all I can say. I mean, Victor Lindelof and Harry Maguire. Yeah, you don't go by the price tag, the 110 million worth of centre backs. I mean, but they are absolutely crap in some part of the game. So Victor Lindelof, I think he's a bit too soft. All I mean, all I can see in today's game was he's adjusting his hair. He's probably on the left side. He's just trying to shove it to the right side. So it was probably the worst game of his United's career, I believe. And but it is also to be seen that he was a Mourinho signing. So it's quite, it's weird to see Lindelof being such a soft defender.
Well, Mourinho is not exactly the Mourinho of the 2010s is not the same Mourinho of the 2000s. But Sahil, do you, I don't know. Do you have any comment on Lindelof's performance?
Yeah, so like I was trying to think about Lindelof for the podcast, and like sometimes if a defender is soft, like they have a good passing range or something. Like you take John Stones for example. Like even though he's not the best defender in the truest sense of the word, he is known for his passing range. But then I feel Lindelof doesn't even offer that. Harry Maguire is probably a better passer than him. So I'm just wondering like what exactly is his main strength, because it's definitely not being good in the air. He gets bullied everywhere. He doesn't have he's not the strongest defender. And if he can't pass the
Tuesday against Luton, might be, maybe, touch wood. But yeah, I mean, yeah, that's all we can hope for, because I think United are not going to sign another centre half. But on that note, yes, final question on personnel then. Good for the next game. Would you think that Fosu Mensah should be given a chance as centre half? Because that's kind of where he actually made his name, as a centre half. Do you think he should be given a chance as centre half? Bring back Van Bissaka in as a right back. Do you think that is a gamble worth taking for the next game? Let's leave us at Luton. Let's talk about Brighton, because I think the Luton game is, whatever happens, I think it will probably, win or lose, that's actually a benefit for United either way. So I don't think anybody cares. But Brighton, do you think Fosu Mensah should start at centre half and give Van Bissaka a chance at right back, or Eric
Uh,
Bailly? But yeah,
uh, I don't think so. I think sorry, Fosu Mensah is playing in the right back position for a while now. So I mean, it will be a risk to play him as a centre back. I think Ole has promoted Kieran Mengi into the
Mhm.
first team, so I think
Yeah.
it's a good shout to play him along with
Yeah.
Maguire. See,
Okay.
because Maguire is going to play, he won't run Harry Maguire.
Hmm.
So I would probably like to see Van Bissaka, Mengi, and Maguire with Shaw.
Yeah. Oh, we lost your video there for a second.
Yeah,
Okay.
sorry. Yeah.
No, that's okay. Yeah, that's actually a good left field shout. I think, yeah, I would like to see Mengi too. I think I would like to see anyone aside from Lindelof in this the next game, based on what he played, and maybe that is good as well. We're scapegoating Lindelof, but maybe that competition will help him as well. Maybe it will improve him,
Yeah.
because that's ultimately what's important. All right, we talked about personnel. We talked about a little bit about the tactics. I think. I think we try to be as positive as we can, but let's talk a little bit about the stuff now, that I think the critical stuff, because I think this needs to be talked about. And let's start with the transfers. Uh, Sahil, obviously not the best transfer window for Manchester United. We talked about needing a right winger. We talked about needing a centre half. We talked about, okay, midfield was probably third priority. We got it. We probably talked about needing a left back as well. A backup left back would have been nice to have as well. 3 out of the 4 still not done. I mean, where do you think this club is going at this point? Like, what is happening? Would, first of all, would you blame the Glazers for, or Edward for this, for these negotiations? And two, where do you see this? What do you see happening now going forward? Like, what has gone? I mean, I don't
yeah.
even know what to say. Like, it's like, the answer is obvious, but like, what do we say about it?
No, I think the blame 100% goes to the Glazers. There's no question about that. And I'm actually glad that Chelsea ended up spending like $200 million, because it just puts things into perspective that two clubs that ended up on the same points last season, one of them literally went to spend $200 million to elevate their squad completely, while we are still like, I think Aston Villa have outspent us. Like Aston Villa, who literally survived relegation by
Newcastle have.
one disallowed goal, I guess,
Yeah.
against Sheffield
Yeah.
United, which should have gone in. Like they have, yeah, even Newcastle, like even someone who's owned by Mike Ashley, who literally doesn't like spending at all. We've been outspent by clubs of that stature, and I think Edward Wood had the, I don't know what, like had the balls to come out and come out with the trash he did in the master program, where he actually justified the lack of spending, which is absolutely insane. After I think Ole was probably told that he has money to spend, because at the start of the window, remember in that interview with Gary Neville, he said that he wants to go out and exploit the transfer window. So I think that probably got us excited as well because we thought that, oh wow, this the Glazers might be changing. We might see money spent, but then like even if we end up signing all the targets we want, right? Like if let's say on by October 5 we have Jadon Sancho, we have Alex Telles, for example, and a left-footed centre back. At what cost though? Like we still lost 3 points today, right? Like even when Bruno was signed in January, people were like, oh wow, we went out to sign a midfielder in January, but then ideally he should have been he should have been signed in
First,
August, which would have made our life much more comfortable. Like it would have maybe we could have pushed out for second as well and challenged City for that. But then like it's just insane incompetence. I don't know if it's deliberate or not deliberate. I have a feeling that they are just taking us for fools over here. That they are just like the same strategy: get top first, stop spending. That's what they do, right? So
yeah, and let's just talk about this because this is what I've read. I don't know how true this report is, but I think there is some truth to it. Is that apparently the Glazers or Ed Woodward likes to spend at the end of the transfer window because he feels he can negotiate that clubs will be desperate to sell, and so they will get less. They get players for cheaper. It didn't happen with Maguire. It didn't happen with Bruno. But sure enough, if he wants to believe that, and the second thing that he said is that United don't like to get into in for players which other clubs want. So essentially, any top player, they will not go in for it because other clubs want top players. Again, because they don't want to get into bidding wars. I mean, Akash, this is if it is true, this is totally like, I mean, this is kind of like a bank manager talking, right? This is not a football person talking. This is a bank manager talking, right? Oh, you know what? I don't want to get into a bidding war for a product because we don't want to have to overspend for a product. So I'm just going to stay back, or I'll wait till the last moment to make a bid, an auction, because I'm on eBay. I'm going to steal the bid, right? Like, where do you go with such owners? Like, what's going on at the club?
It's absolute nonsense. I mean, it's not like Jadon Sancho is in his last year of contract and Dortmund are like just waiting for some amount of cash. I mean, he
And
still
even
has a couple
extended.
of years left.
Yeah, he's even
Yeah,
extended his
that,
contract over the
yeah,
summer, so
right.
3 years, right? Yeah,
Yeah, I think it's to 2023 or something his contract,
yeah,
and
3 years. Yeah,
so I don't think so. Dortmund are not budging on their 120 million price, so that's not happening. I mean, it was known since like a couple of months now.
yeah.
And like I think there was an artificial deadline of 10th August. I mean that's okay. I mean it's okay. One thing is to negotiate a good deal, and other thing is to wait till the end to just spray out all the nonsense which have been in the last couple of years. So I think it's just deja vu. You have seen in 2018 during Mourinho's season when he got sacked and we got Fred and Dallo. I mean, there was nothing. He wanted a centre back. I mean, it's understandable. It's Jorge, he's finished, but again, he wanted a player, and probably we went for Toby Alderweireld, and we went on dragged on to the end, and we got nothing. And that season was a massive. I don't want to use the word, but yeah. So
Just
as yeah, so I think we will spend the money now, but again, as Sahil said, at what cost? I mean, 3 points
well,
were there for the taking.
yeah. Well, I mean, it's true. The Glazers, I mean, Woodward and Glazers don't care about 3 points. I mean, 9 points. They don't mind
Yeah,
dropping points. That they can say 9 points is dropped is better than 9 million dropped or 10 million dropped. Right?
yeah,
That's the way they look at
correct.
it, right? I mean, it's
yeah,
it's madness. But okay, I mean, we've got a few. I think there's been a few comments from people saying that Jadon Sancho is not worth it. You guys know who I'm talking about, probably the listeners' tone, but how there are people, the opposition fans who go out and bet and praise the Glazers for a sound business strategy, right? I mean, we know what's going on as fans, but how do you defend something like this? Like, I mean, even if it's not Jadon Sancho, that's fine. Like, we talk about Jadon Sancho because
yeah,
that's the main link. I don't care if it's anybody else. I don't care if it's Mbappe for that matter. If that was the main link, where are the other targets? Like, if it's not Jadon Sancho, what other right winger are they targeting? They're now targeting Ismail Sarr, who's going to cost you 50 million pounds. Apparently, that's the price, 50 million pounds for somebody who's going to be a bench player most likely at United. And they probably would go and pay it just to make people happy. But if you're going to pay 50 million pounds but what are the targets? Like, where are the centre back targets? Like, why are there no other alternative targets? Why are there no other alternative winger targets? This is nothing. There's no planning, is there, Sahil?
Yeah, I don't think we are signing a center back. I would be very,
I
very
don't think so. I
surprised.
think Mengi was promoted because of that. Yeah, I don't think we're signing.
Yeah, I mean, see, I don't want to discredit Mengi like that because I haven't seen Mengi at all. He might be a good player in his own right, but then, yeah, it could be a money saving scheme as well. That you're promoting someone from the academy, so you don't have to go out and spend how many ever millions on a center back from the market. But then for right winger, it'll be really funny if we end up signing Ivan Perisic from after all these years after Jose wanted him. Like, I mean, he's not a bad player, but then is he really what we want? Like, is he? He's obviously not upgrade on Daniel James, but then is he good enough for to lift us from all from four plus competitors to possibly challenging for like second or you know I don't want to say first. First seems out of the question, but like getting us closer from fourth to first. Like basically, the aim should be to at least cut the 33-point deficit between us and first last season into half, right? Like
Yeah.
that's how we want to upgrade
Mhm.
this season.
Yeah.
But then I don't see it happening. Like if we sign Ivan Perisic and even like any said left back, I guess
Telles is the
the yeah the most likely one right now seems to be Alex Telles. But then even if he comes at, I don't know how much that elevates our squad. Like we need a marquee signing like Jadon Sancho to inspire confidence all around the club. But then even if he signs, it's just gonna like I don't think the vibe at the club is that good. There's all obvious
Yeah,
dissatisfaction. Like Ole just came out after the press conference saying that he like said it clearly that he needs players. So if he doesn't get those, or if he gets those very late, then it's just not ideal whatever's happening. But
To add insult to injury, Dortmund won 3-0,
yeah,
if I remember correctly, and guess who got an
yeah,
assist in that game? So, guess who scored? The two goals, who scored two goals, and then somebody else got an assist, and both of them could have been playing in Manchester United.
yeah,
We had better competitive opponents,
absolutely.
but
yeah.
that's where we are at. That's where we are at, and and people will, and there are, and I get it. It's banter, it's fun. People like to do all that, but it's just beyond.
Should we like we were told that Jude Bellingham is going to Dortmund because Dortmund need money and then we can because Dortmund need money for Jadon Sancho which they're gonna use to buy Jude Bellingham. So I thought we all thought it was gonna be an agreement in place, but it's all gone out of the window.
No, well, it's
It's a
it's it's
disaster.
sad. It is really sad to watch it because it's a simple thing, right? I mean, I get it. Some people will say 100 million. The price quoted is expensive. That's but you pay that. I mean, they took out a 140 million pound loan in the summer, but they took it out only to pay dividends. So that dividends wouldn't be.
Yeah.
I mean, how much
Yeah,
more clear and transparent can someone be that we are just
And
taking you guys for a ride?
also that we say that the price quoted is a lot, but then whose fault is that, right? Like who went on TV and said that Man United can do things only other clubs can dream of? That his quote, right? Or
Yeah,
something like that, something along those lines.
yeah.
So
watch this
it's
space.
it's a precedent the club set itself, right? Like with all those insane dealings it made like over the last few years. So obviously clubs are gonna quote you more because they know all about your financial prowess. If you decide that one window you aren't gonna spend the money that you quote that you used to, clubs aren't gonna take your word for it, but they know how much money you have in the
Mhm.
bank account.
Yeah. But it's also not about that. It's also about having good negotiators. I mean, like,
Yeah,
ultimately, managers
absolutely.
and Woodward are just not good negotiators. They just don't know how to
Yeah.
negotiate deals. And
I mean,
Yeah,
you look across the town, like you look at Liverpool, like it's just a big contrast. Like I think Akash said it yesterday that if we were going to sign Diego Jota instead of Liverpool, we would have paid like 55 million for him easily, 55, 60 million, because that's just the reputation of the club.
no, what would have happened is that they would have said we want 55 million, and we would have been like, well, we'll give you 30 million plus 20 million in add-ons or
Yeah,
basically the Champions League. They'll be like, no, F off. Like, okay, we'll wait till the end of the window and make another bid. Liverpool would have come in, said we want Jota, gone in a day that deal would have been done. That's how United operates. So
but is it really like that? Because there are things coming out from the Thiago deal, and they're paying 20 million upfront, but that's divided into 5 installments. So it's really like 5 million for this year,
yeah, but usually the
which
transfers work like that. Like, I mean, they
yeah,
have to pay in installments. So
yeah,
it's a short. I mean, it's a small transfer. Like 20 million is not a big fee right now.
that's fine.
And yeah, and I think Glazers are using the Corona situation as a cushion. I
yeah,
mean, they are just trying to lay it out in the public that you don't have the cash. But when you see the clubs like Villa, Newcastle, and I mean Tottenham spending a lot, like a lot means by 100 million, which we haven't even touched yet. So it's confusing. And I also read a interesting stat the other day, that when we are chasing top four, when we are not in the Champions League and we
hmm
want to get in, our net spend is 160 million, and
yep,
we when we are in the Champions League, our net spend is half of that.
yep.
So I don't know why. I mean, it's clear lack of ambition.
And also, like last time when it happened in 2018, it is like Jose was already having problems with the team. Right now, the team is literally on the up. Like there was an amazing vibe. Everyone was believing in the manager, and then you
Yeah,
go out and do something like this. Like there's absolutely nothing to justify. Like 2 years ago, they could at least use the reason that Jose looked like he was done with United to as a reason to not trust him with all the money. But right now, like, what is the reason? Like, are you not trusting the manager after he got you third?
Mm.
Yeah.
Is that what it is?
No,
Then
Raiola
just say
said
it
he
out.
wanted Pogba to sign a new contract. You cannot get a better, more positive vibe.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly. Makes
when
sense.
he
Yeah,
says that a player wants to sign a contract, normally it's
yeah.
like the other way around. I want my player to leave. So, I mean, yeah, they bossed it. I think, yeah, there's so many points to discuss, and we don't. I mean, we could probably go an hour on ranting, but let's talk about the future a little bit of the season. I think this result for me, I know it's only one game, it may be knee jerk, but I think it confirms there's no title challenge happening. We're going to be
Yeah.
fighting, and I use fighting as a term. I really don't think, but it's going to be top four or nothing this season. I really don't see anything else happening. But speaking of which, Everton had a great game today. I think Everton were brilliant,
Oh yeah.
and they're going to be. I honestly think that it's going to be a challenge just finishing seventh right now because you've got the top six
Yeah.
probably going to finish somewhere between 1 to 7, most likely, and then you've got Everton who might even be fighting in that seven bracket as well. And you still got Wolves and even who was the other team? There's one more team that was I'm going to mention, but yeah,
Leicester.
I'm sorry. Leicester, yes,
Leicester.
Leicester is there
Yeah.
as well. You got Leicester. I mean, it's just there's so many teams now, and even it's going to be difficult if United fall behind. It would be very difficult to get back into that race. So, but that's my opinion, and I'm a pessimistic person by nature. So I've been told. But what do you think? Let's assume there are no signings. I know it's a worst case scenario, but let's assume there are no signings between now and the end of the transfer window. What do you think happens?
No, I think we'll definitely fight for fourth, and in my opinion, we will still finish around fourth. May probably like fourth like fourth would be the position we finish in because I mean I don't think the starting 11 by itself is bad as such. Like it has a lot of quality. We need to like this was Bruno's first Premier League defeat, if I'm not wrong. I don't think he's lost before this, or maybe he's lost once, but I don't think he
This is the
has.
first one.
Yeah, so like that's the kind of quality we showed over half a season, which is like not a short amount of time either, right? So I think I don't know. I think the starting 11 obviously like it just comes confirms what we know, right? That the starting 11 when it plays, it has a lot of quality enough to win games on its own. But then when you have key members out of the team, like when you had Matic and Van Bissaka out, and when you had Greenwood also not starting, you could see that the cracks were very very obvious, right? And like so, I think we should be able to finish fourth with the squad if we don't have a lot of injuries, which obviously is unrealistic. But then, assuming we don't have injuries, we should be competing for fourth or third. With injuries, probably a fight for fourth. But then I still think that we should be able to finish fourth
Okay.
because I think there will be signings. Like they can't really be that shameless to not have any signings after a
You have no
performance like
idea.
this.
You have no idea how shameless it can be.
Because that's what always happens, right? Like we
They,
go all out after there's a kick up our ass, and then they go out and like find some random players around there, which like it's not confirmed good signings, but then there will be some players
yeah.
just for the like just to
Well,
add some depth
what
to the team.
what will happen is tomorrow is when you wake up in the morning, you will notice that there will be like a bunch of rumors coming out. United are interested in this player, that player. They've already started. That's what's going to happen. They may not be in for any of them, but that's what they're going to feed to the press. The press are going to be. You'll see that tomorrow and Monday. That will be what will happen. Oh, United.
Probably a director of football report or something.
Yeah,
Yeah,
something like that is
that's true.
what they're considering. Yeah, there's some things like that. But see, my concern here is that if Woodward had made this statement about COVID at the end of the transfer window, I was like, okay, fine, that's something. But he's already making it now. This is the kind of statement you come out with at the end of the transfer. Like, this is the reason why we couldn't do it. But he's making it now, so he's already getting his excuses in, which kind of scares me. But Akash, what do you think is going to happen for this season? Again, it's only one game, but where do you see
Mm.
United like now from going from here for the rest of the season? Assuming there are no
If we
signings.
don't see, I don't want to overreact on this defeat. Yeah, we were rusty and we didn't have a good preseason. But if we don't make any signings, I can't see us getting top four. It's simply because the other teams have improved and they are improving and they will make more signings, is what I know.
Yeah.
And I think we will fight for the fourth place. We might even get it, but realistically, I cannot see us getting fourth place, maybe fifth. And I think even Spurs will be right up there with the new signings of Regulon and Bale. Bale, I don't know. I mean,
Yeah.
he might have an impact. You just have to wait and see. But yeah, I mean, I can't see us getting top four with the current squad.
Yeah, no, it's going to be a challenge for sure. Yeah, definitely. It's going to be a fight, and that's the sad thing. Like we shouldn't be having to compete for fourth again.
Yeah.
We've been going
Yeah,
for it.
right.
Well, such are the times we live in. For next game, let's ignore the Luton one. I think that there will be a lot of changes for that one. And quite frankly, if they lose, it's not a bad thing because they'll have more rest time, which is I think they need more training time and more rest time. So I don't think it's a bad thing. Though I don't want us to lose, but I don't think it's such a bad thing. But let's start with Brighton. What changes do you want to say? I mean, obviously there have to be changes. Here's the thing though, even if anybody signs now, they're not going to play the Brighton game because they all have to go 2 week quarantine. So none of them are going to play,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So that's that's again, think about what kind of planning goes into these kind of things. But yeah, so there's not going to be any new signings. Even if there are, they're not going to play. So what changes do you want to see based on what we have? What changes do you want to see, Akash, in the next game?
First of all, I want Dean Henderson to play in the goal.
Okay.
I mean, apart from the penalty save, which was ruled out, I don't think David De Gea was at his game. I mean,
He had a
you
couple of
can see
straight
how
passes.
shaky.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, probably the first 10 minutes of the game, you can see he made I don't know, it was a weird pass and he apologized for that. And later on, also, when Lindelof had hit the ball back and he got a bit confused what to do, whether to come a bit quicker or no. So I think I would like to see Henderson playing at the back and
Yeah,
then
sorry
Van
on that. I don't
Bissau.
think he apologized. I
Yeah.
think he was raising his hand, like, what the hell? He was blaming the other player. I don't think he was apologizing. They're just saying, he apologized, but he didn't apologize. Like, his hand
Yeah.
was like that. Like, what am I supposed to do? So, yeah.
Oh,
But anyway, that's just a minor gripe. But I'm just, yeah.
okay.
But
My
Henderson
bad.
will probably start the Luton game, so we'll see how that one goes.
Yeah,
That will be one thing to
right.
look for. Yeah.
So apart from that, I would like to see the natural back four of Van Bissaka, and I would actually have someone other in place of Lindelof.
Yeah.
I know he will start. I 100% know Ole will stick with Lindelof and Maguire.
No, I
But
think
yeah, you have to.
he might drop him. If Mengi, I think Mengi and Bailly will probably start the next game in Luton. If one of them have a good
Hmm.
game, he will probably drop Lindelof. I think it's getting to that time. I think yeah. But who would you want to see starting in place of Lindelof? Sorry to cut you off there.
I think Eric Bailly should start with Maguire.
Okay.
He has shown glimpses, but he has been a bit unlucky with injuries, is what what I feel. So I think he deserves a shot right there. And yeah, he can be a bit clumsy and what we say a bit show off kind of player. But yeah, I'm sorry, my video. Yeah,
That's all right.
yeah. But I would like to see Bailly and Maguire partner. So along with Luke Shaw, the left back, and I would really want Mattis to be back in this team.
Yeah.
So I know it's a bit impossible to not have both Bruno and Pogba in the same team, but I would really like Van de Beek to start this game. Although I feel he will start the Luton game.
Yeah. But who would you drop for Van de Beek?
I would probably drop Pogba based on the current game he had today.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the front team would probably remain with Greenwood, Marshall, Rashford.
Yeah. Okay. Sahil, do you agree? Do you agree with the changes or?
Yeah, I mean, I would try to go back to the best 11 from post restart from last season. So Van Bissaka in place of Fosu Mensah, and Martins in place of McTominay, and probably Greenwood in place of Dan James. But then I don't know.
Would you keep Lindelof or do you take him off?
No, I would take Lindelof off and get him Eric Bailly also. But then so right, I I kind of agree with Akash about De Gea as well, because Brighton are a much more aggressive team. At least like Palace, they sit in a low block and stuff. Brighton will be coming for De Gea for every mistake he makes. Like the pass he made was absolutely shocking in the first half, and that's not something that was a one-off. Like we could really expect De Gea to make one of those almost every game. And also, like coming when he was coming out to sweep the ball away, he wasn't very confident. Which obviously it's not his national dream.
Yeah.
And but yeah, I mean, but I would probably still stick with De Gea for this game, like just to see how it goes, and then. But I would probably keep Pogba and Bruno in the game though if they've recovered well. They look very very jaded though, so I'm not sure if they have enough in them left right now. Like it's very very concerning that two of our best midfielders are so tired at this in the first game of the season. It doesn't really paint a good picture, but probably keep with them because they would. I don't think they would be involved with Luton at all. At least I hope they aren't. So they should have a good week's rest and they should be back firing.
Yeah, the Luton game will be interesting from that to see who starts and who
Yeah.
doesn't, and if a few players put in good performances, then what happens to the first?
Yeah, I would assume Fred is gonna start the Luton game. Fred, McTominay, and Van der Beek. That should be a something different to
Yeah.
see in that midfield.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, we'll see who the midfield is. I mean, I don't know if McDonald he played 90 minutes. So I don't know if they're gonna. risk him playing Luton, or they'll rest him for
Yeah.
the.
Yeah, that's fair.
Maybe it will be Fred Matic, because Matic will need some game time, so it might be
Uh,
Matic.
Yeah.
we, I
Uh,
think people are forgetting Jesse Lingard and Pereira. They're still with us.
Oh yeah.
No, he'll do. I think Lingard or Pereira, one of them will probably start in up front. I think it will be
Yeah.
James, Ghalo, and Lingard. I think that will be the front three, and that
Yeah.
probably will be the front three for the Luton game. Beyond that, it's just, I think Lingard has fashion in some as this like defensive forward. So if you need someone to lock down, one wing, I think he's good at that. He's got
Hmm.
you know what? To be honest, I think most people now prefer Lingard over Mata and Pereira, because I think he offers a
Oh
little.
yeah, Mata's also there. Keep
Matter,
forgetting.
yeah, I know Matter, right? So yeah, there's so many players that have no future at the club, and there's no effort made to take them out. But anyway, I mean, that's that we've gone ad nauseam. We hadn't even touched on the players who were supposed to leave. I mean, that's where the money was supposed to come in, right? And we've only talked about deals that have not been done to bring players, and we haven't even talked about deals of players for players.
I think it's important we keep those players if we aren't having players coming in because it's a very short season, right? It's a very cramped season, so we need as many legs as possible to play all these like stupid EFL Cup games and all that. You don't want to lose them right now.
But
Um,
I would like to win a trophy. I mean, it will
Yeah.
be a huge boost to the team. I mean, the team isn't experienced enough with the trophies, so it will be good
Oh.
if we can win this.
Yeah, I think we have enough depth. I mean, in terms of like squad players, we have enough depth to bring. I don't think we're going to be in a situation where we won't have players to put out. The players, no, not the level. Obviously, the level is not good enough, and I think that's where it needs to improve. But I think we have. I think there are good enough.
Yeah.
There are enough good players at United to be able to cover situations. But that's the issue, right? We want
But
players
then like
who can
I was
carry.
talking that at last season at times in the even the Europa League you felt like you really couldn't select players from the bench because they weren't that good. So like at least you want to rest your Pogbas and Brunos to not play like an FA Cup third round or an FA Cup fourth round against some team from the championship, right? So
Absolutely, that's
yeah,
what's needed. I mean, right now, that there are certain players you can bring on if you're leading 2-0, 3-0, but
yeah.
when you're down 1-0, who do you bring on? But anyway, I think thank you very much. I think we've gone quite a little bit over time than what I had expected, but I know it's always happens when you lose, right? There's always things that you wanna get off your chest, you wanna talk about. This loss has been coming, by the way. Like I know there
Yeah.
were a lot of people who were like, yeah, we'll probably win it, but I thought no, there is a chance that this will be lost just because the way things have been going this whole week. It's been a really really sad
Yeah.
one hit after the other,
Yeah.
and it affects players. We may think that it doesn't, but it does affect. It affects fans. It affects players.
It's not even surprising anymore. I mean,
Yeah.
you can feel disappointed, but you won't be hurt. Like, it's just banter football. I mean, you can expect these performances every now and then.
I
Yeah.
think that's the saddest part, like being disappointed but not surprised. Like you're just used to it happening. So
Yeah, it's like we are turning into Arsenal or something. Yeah.
yeah.
Well, the nice little shade at Arsenal there. They're on the up and up. I think. I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah, I think they are playing good. Yeah.
But thank you so much, Akash. Thank you so much, Sahil, for joining me today. I know it's been a little bit of a tough day, but thank you so much for doing the show. Really appreciate your insight and comments. And it's very nice that you guys validated my thoughts. That's always nice. It's always good to feel valued. No, just kidding. But thank you so much for being here today. All the best for the future for the games next week, Luton and Brighton. We'll see how those two go. And hopefully it will be a much more positive match reaction when we do it the next time. So thank you so much, guys, for joining.
Hopefully.
Please remember to like the video if you enjoyed this analysis. Really appreciate that. We also want to ask you to subscribe if you're new. We need just getting close to 70 subscribers, so help us cross that mark by subscribing to the channel. If you enjoyed the show and if you enjoyed our episodes, we'll keep producing more of that. And obviously, if you do subscribe, you can always get Aakash and Saahil back then, because we know that they'll be appreciated as well. So please do that as well. Thank you so much, guys, for joining, and we'll see you again soon. Have a good rest of your weekend. Bye bye. Hey everyone, thank you so much for listening to that episode of Late Night Football. We need your help to grow this channel, so if you've been enjoying the show thus far, please do like and subscribe to this channel and share it with your friends, family, colleagues, neighbors, drinking buddies, fellow football fans, and anybody else you know or don't know. We'd really appreciate it. Please also follow us on Twitter and Facebook. We have the links in the description below, and spread the word about us. Take care.